Welcome back today. Namaste. Okay. We have a microphone, is that?
Sometimes I feel so helpless because of the apparent impossibility of doing something which would result in something that we seek here. Even when you ask us to observe, to be the observer, when you told the story about Papaji, it almost seems like your sadhana was more about, doubting Papaji and, things happening of itself. It's like only grace itself could allow that revelation to be revealed. It's like life itself somehow. It doesn't choose to come into existence or do something in order to come into existence.
So your point is? First thing I would want to come in there is the idea that there is a time when there is not grace is not true. All is grace. And if you throw out this idea that, you know, there's a time when there is not grace, then you will come to see. If you feel that there's a time when there's not grace, then you're going to be tortured. You're going to feel, oh my God, why doesn't grace come? It came for Buddha, but it didn't come for me. Maybe I'm not worthy. I'm not ready.
And the torture itself is grace.
Well, yes, it also will be an instrument of grace to remind grace that it is already grace. Maybe, you see? Like this. That there's only grace if you want to use this word, no? Yes. I mean, how does it feel when you hear that again, you see? That, you know, there is not a moment which is ungraceful or ungracious, you see, where there's an absence of grace. Does it feel more heavy, the idea that grace may come one day, or that I'm swimming in grace?
Certainly the former feels more heavy.
Yes, yes, of course it does. You see, it's like a fish asking, how can I get to the ocean? I hear there's an ocean. I hear there's an ocean here somewhere. And, you know, I actually believe it. There is one ocean. And then it asks another fish, yeah, I heard about this as well too. I'm really into oceans. But there's actually a fish that knows the ocean. Maybe you go and ask this fish. And this fish says, yes, yes, yes. I mean, you know, all is ocean. You see. Says, yes, yes, but that's very, you know, we've heard these ocean koans before. No, can you take us really to the ocean? Or maybe better than that, a wave is asking, how can I reach the ocean? You see, a wave is asking, how can I reach the ocean? You see, maybe I'm not big enough. Maybe my lifespan is too short. I know that this tsunami wave really came from the ocean, but I don't know if I have enough power to be a tsunami. So maybe not this life, I will not reach the ocean, you see. Finish? Huh?
I don't know. It feels so perfect in your presence that, you know, it doesn't feel like there was something that was finished, you know, that needed to be finished.
What to say?
I was wondering if you would please elaborate on letting things be as they are, just as they are, and letting go of control, and how that leads to awakening.
Letting things be as they are, leaving them to move as they are, recognizing that they are as they are, and that I am as I am that observes them. Does not lead to anything. Even this idea of awakening, it's also will be also an idea also. It means that you are as you are. Then we may speak, oh, this is the state which was referred to as being awake. And you may need to hear that only once and then leave it. Don't think about awakening, don't think about enlightenment even, see. Because when you allow yourself to see without interfering, without wishing things to be other than they are, then somehow your seeing becomes immensely pure and clean. It's empty of intention. It's empty of intention. And when it's empty of intention, also there is no tension. It's empty of intention. The seeing itself becomes silence. It's empty, see. Okay? So, in that recognition, even to say, okay, this leads to something, it's not necessary. You will see. There is just contentment. And that is called being awake to who you are, to what is, if you want to see it like that. And what does it mean to leave things as they are, to see things as they are, to accept them as they are? Does it mean that you are capable of seeing things as they are? Or is it that whichever way things appear to you, you cannot help it because also you could not help the fact that conditioning arose here. And through this conditioning, what is also perceived through some interpretive medium, you see. And that also is things as they are. That conditioning also, something has behaved through conditioning also. But that is observed, that's watched, that's witnessed. And that's just allowed to be whatever that is. What is important is where does the watching arise from, you see. What is behind the watching? Is there a watcher? Is there an entity watching? You can check it out and see. Is there merely just watching with no actual entity doing the watching, or is there just there's always an entity doing something? If there is always an entity even watching, something must watch that also. In order to say, yes, there is a little behind the screen, the yellow brick road, there's a little watcher watching. But then there must be also the knowing of that, and that must be earlier. So that needs to be recognized. By whom, I don't know. It just needs to be recognized.
What about, maybe I'm missing this, what about when there's identification with controlling a situation or person?
Yes.
How does that keep controlling? Does that keep you from awakening?
The obsession with the identity with that will obscure, it will eclipse that metaphysical intuition, the recognition of that. Because whatever your attention caresses becomes your experience, you see. Whatever the attention lands on becomes your experience. So as much as you're engaged with manipulating or doing something, then it's as though that itself is concealing that natural awareness, that you're only the awareness and not something trying to become aware even, you see. So I want to continue a little bit with what you've said there. You say, for instance, you name a certain tendency, which is a tendency to try and capture, to manipulate, to control something. And I have had this conversation with you already too, that when you identify with the controlling energy, I'm the one who wants to control, and I really want to stop it. I really would like just to give it up and just to be free of that. And everyone will accept you. Okay, you're really in trouble. Let's see what we can do to get you out of that situation, you see. But from the outset, I'm asking actually two things. One is you find out actually what is it that is actually needing to control. And that's not an easy question, because usually the assumption is enough. It's me. Boom, finish. What a silly question. Of course it's me. But the question comes again, what exactly is me? And I don't want just a conceptual or verbal answer, you know. Really get inside. When you say me, find the controller. Does the controller exist, you see? Find it. How do you find it? First of all, the very energy of the controlling, the need to control, is the smell, is the scent that will take you to where, to the one who is the controller. Use it. Just like if you have a bad smell somewhere, you can sniff around, you find it in some dirty socks or something, or a dead rat. The smell will take you to that place. In the same way, that controlling tendency, that energy, find it, trace it back to where it's emanating from, and see if you can find the controller. Does the controller exist? You see, beyond the assumption, because usually when you think you know something, you don't really look. You just assume you know it. But I want you to follow it like it's the first time you're hearing that instruction. Follow it and see. Just don't assume, okay, yes, it's just me, and you know, let's start there. I say, okay, let's start there. Catch hold of what is me. What actually is me? Is it something tangible, palpable? Does it exist? Is it an entity that is there? Try it and look and see. You will feel this need to control something, or to, you know, to always know or understand what is happening. You know that energy. We all know it. We feel it. Who is the one who suffers from it? And you have to move beyond merely thinking about it. You may think, but also feel. Where is it? You may say that that energy is located somewhere here, and it's crackling along my shoulders and so on. Okay, fine, but who actually is suffering it? See if you can just catch hold of that and be quiet with it. And what you may find in being quiet and try to focus the attention on finding that sense of who actually is a sufferer here, you may find that the attention is jumping off into something, like almost as though it doesn't want to be found out. You go to look, who is that, and then suddenly you start to think of nice handbags or something. Then you come again, and it always seems like something is taking the attention off. But that is being observed. And gradually something settles down, and it is seen that somehow there is no center. There is no person. There is no one there. I'd rather hear it from you, because when it comes from you, then it is your own finding that there is no one here, and that is experienced, not a conclusion mentally. You actually experience, I cannot find it. I cannot find the one who is the controller, you see, like this. And in that non-finding of the controller, you see, even what is discovering even this? This is what is called inquiry, you see. What even discovers that there's no one there to be discovered? Does that itself have a form? And you come to see that there's only the discovering, that there's nothing to be discovered. And what makes this discovery? Nothing makes this discovery. This discovery happens somewhere in awareness. And all that remains is awareness. Awareness, presence, you see. This is inquiry. If that feels too difficult, then you may find out, like I say, something is aware of the controlling need. Okay? It arises in awareness. It arises in consciousness. It is watched, it's observed. What is that which observes this controlling tendency, see? And again, I say I don't want your answer, because the answer won't be it. The answer will just merely be another concept. So what is important is the question is important. Something observes. Now there is present strong need to panic or to identify with this, with wanting to control something. All the fear, all the bad smell of that is coming up, and I can see it. Who am I who sees it, you see? Just be quiet with that. The mind will jump and wants to answer this question like a child in class. It says, yes, yes, I know the answer. It says, no, I don't want the answer, you see. Allow the question to fully happen in you, to reveal if there is something there or not. Obviously, anything that arises for you, you must be there to observe it. That which is observing it, is it a person, you see? Now, I know sometimes this is always tricky because I can feel at times that in this inquiry, something is shot over your head. Like it's hard to focus on it. But with repeated efforts at looking and really being quiet, and using whatever it is that is the latent tendency, the habit, hold to the habit and see if there's one for whom the habit comes. Somehow that becomes more clear, increasingly clear. And there is a force about that, a beauty, a focus that happens in you. If not, then I say, don't scratch your head too much about it. It's good that I mention this thing, introduce it, remind you of it, but don't hand it over to your mind to carry out the instruction, you see. Openness is the greatest teacher. Somehow, sometime in this kind of setting, this environment, where that focus is put now, and what we've mentioned before is somehow some recognition is taking place. Perhaps mind is in a crazy mode, but it's allowed to simple throb, pulsate. But now there's a recognition of a deeper witnessing of that, and an ease with that witnessing is present. And you know that you have the power to not run in fear, but to allow all this to happen. It can arise that somehow you feel like you're in the fire cooking somehow. I say, welcome this fire, be in this fire. It will only burn not you, but what you are not. Stay in this fire with folded hands. Burn. Don't try and work out how the fire, what the fire will cook, whether you will be well done or not, or yes. Okay. The microphone's here. Okay.
Hi. So the and then story was subtle. A little bit of buying this and then saying, okay, I want to return it. A little purchasing, a little bringing it back for a refund. No big fire, no. Doesn't seem like a manipulation. I know this is in manifestation, this process. And there's also the awareness that sees this process of buying and then remembering, oh yeah.
Yes. So does it need to be called and then? Has it reached the, is it qualified for an and then moment? Once it is seen, does it qualify for an and then?
Once it's seen, no.
Okay.
But there's a practice going on. I tend to make things into a practice. I guess it's like an image. Okay, there's going to be a moment where I have to practice remembering and then returning the item.
Okay. So, but even that tendency to formulate some action which you call a practice is also observed in awareness. Can anything jump out of awareness and exist. Even the idea of jumping out of awareness arises in awareness. Is it not like this? Sometimes this simple finding can feel deeply frustrating, you know. It's like there's no way out, there's no escape, no? Because what you're saying is basically, well, can I invent something? I'm sure there must be something I can invent that exists apart from awareness. Can it exist apart from awareness? Yeah, but awareness doesn't allow me to act and to create something. I want to be original. I want to find another way into this. But who is doing it even? Is it not just the idea you have about yourself, which arises in awareness? Rather than thinking about awareness, rest as awareness. And see, is there anything missing in awareness when you are just the awareness? Then your idea of yourself, your manifest expression, that can continue, of course. If you like sardines, hate eggs, enjoy sardines, eat eggs. It's no big deal. It's not so consequential. If you say, my liking sardines and eating eggs is going to stop me from becoming enlightened, then you will experience somehow that, look, you know, if you want to be enlightened, don't touch eggs. Then you create all this stuff. You see, all this is driven by thought. Thought is at the root of all things like this, you see. So even thought creates the sense of being bound and also creates a sense of being free. Awareness is not free. It's not even in the realm of bondage and freedom. But the sense of being freed or being bound arises in it. How simple, how pure, you see.
So when you say don't touch or don't purchase the thought,
Yes.
that's not like a prohibition.
No.
It's not like if I do purchase the thought, there's any difference between purchasing and not purchasing. Not like there has to be a return.
More to find out
refund
who
line.
is doing the purchasing. More to find out who is doing the purchasing, you see.
Yeah.
Is it awareness? Or is it not, again, the idea that you have about yourself that feels like it needs something? In another way, let's be simple about it, no? Everything is permitted, no? You can go where you want, do what you do. If you've understood that that is simply the activity or the expression in consciousness that awareness expresses in consciousness or in body, that's perfectly fine. There's not really anything that you're going to do that's going to make you more like awareness or less like awareness. Then something is immensely freed up, in fact. You're immensely freed up. Because you're not using measurements for awareness. You're not saying, okay, if I give up my job, live in the mountains, I'm going to be really more awareness than if I'm living in the city. So you have not created any conditions in which you have to watch out that you are not keeping up. You're completely, it's got nothing to do with it. And when it's clear that you are merely the awareness in which the idea of yourself is playing as life, and that's perfectly okay. It doesn't carry a bad smell about it. So then see if this need to say, okay, I'm purchasing a thought or not, then I say, forget about it. Purchase as many thoughts. Buy the whole world of thoughts and see if it makes a difference. I'm not afraid of thoughts. I don't say thoughts are bad. The sage also, they think, you know, about something, read the newspapers. Something is reading it, no? But it's not having the effect that you fear. That, thoughts, I want to be in no thought. But that's also a thought. You see? So somehow something just relaxes and comes to know that that's all a play of mind, in fact. So this is why I ask you, who is the one who is purchasing the thought, suffering from the thought? Is that not itself a thought? A thought you have about yourself is experiencing and suffering from other thoughts, being observed in awareness. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Maybe hard to accept, you know, what are you saying? I'm not good at that at all. You know? I said, the thought that we have about ourselves, which comes as the I thought or the I concept, is itself experiencing attraction and repulsion of other thoughts, which itself, it itself is a thought, suffering from other thoughts that it is involved in. And all of that is arising in awareness. The moment that is clear, if there is very strong identification with the body and mind functioning, then that can become so opaque that somehow that qualityless, formless awareness seems to be obscured. I'm saying not obscured, it seems to be obscured. Everything is a great seeming, you'll come to see that. It appears to be obscured because of the obsession and the identification with another thought. So whatever thoughts that attention or the consciousness embraces, it's as though it merges with that thought, it takes on the fragrance of that thought. And yet at the same time, you can operate with thoughts, feel thoughts, enjoy also thought. This entire universe is thought, actually. I wonder if you recognize that. The originators, like everything around you, somehow existed first in thought, and then it somehow became concrete thoughts. Are we stuck somewhere? Is there something?
I don't think so.
No. Oh, yes.
I find myself thinking about thought right now.
That's good.
And I read last night in a book about Papa G that he said, give up God, give up the scriptures, give up the ego, and just be aware.
Yes.
You know, just, I have so much trouble in my thoughts. I've lived my life by God and the scriptures. The Torah was my guide. The Torah was the Old Testament.
Yes.
My guide for every move I've taken for 47 years.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here listening to the discussion about thought, thinking, okay, this is all thought. And then I look up at the sky where I used to believe God was, because I no longer believe it's just an external representation. I used to believe that God was sitting up there on Yom Kippur. In the scriptures, it says, in the prayer book, it says, who shall live, who shall die, who by fire, deciding whether I was going to live the next year based on how I was conducting myself. That used to be my concept. Now my concept is God is more like that big one heart that I was feeling before. And then I look up right through this skylight and I say, what if he is up there? Okay. Well, I have a friend who suggested to me that maybe we're having hardship and circumstances in our lives because I'm straying from the truth of the Torah. And I realize this is all just thoughts. What I'm unsure of is how to just give those thoughts up. Those are, I know it's conditioning, but is the Torah, is the Old Testament just a book? Or was it really, I can't comprehend whether it was really, as I was taught, dictated by God to Moses on Mount Sinai. I can't comprehend how to separate myself from the concepts that I've had for 47 years about those two issues. That's why the church can bother me. That's why idols can bother me. That's why I'm unsure, okay, am I supposed to stay kosher or am I not supposed to stay kosher? Am I supposed to keep the Sabbath or not keep the Sabbath? I'm at peace lately. The interesting part is I've experimented with breaking the Sabbath a little bit. And when I break it, I'm not being struck dead, I noticed. And I'm more or less at peace with it in that moment. But then later I wonder, okay, should I have done that? Should I not have done that? And again, it's
that
just
power,
thought.
that power that places this potential in you to question everything. If this is your privilege in being human being, that you have the power to contemplate yourself, and something is in you that reveals the power to question everything and to see if every rule can be broken and if any rule annihilates you. It's like the response that Jesus made when one time he was being confronted about his disciples breaking the Sabbath by eating some corn or something like that. And he said, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. And what he meant by that is that these concepts are there to serve you, not to imprison you. And for a while, religion has many layers or concentric circles. At the core of them, they must meet, all of them, in one simple thing. They must move beyond formful limitation. And you have that capacity in you to discover, to go beyond merely formful representation and to be the witness of them. And when you are beyond form association, when you're beyond form, you will see that there's no fear, in fact. There is no I must do or I must not do, in fact. You feel it intuitively that you're beyond the realm of good and bad and right and wrong and Islam and Christianity and this and that. It is naturally, this is your experience even here now, in fact. But even within that, your own conditioning can continue to express itself. You see, it's like if I'm cooking some chickpeas on the fire and it's bubbling away and I turn it off, it will bubble on for a bit. Sometimes the effects of our conditioning continues even in a completely pure sage. Certain idiosyncrasies and certain, things will continue to happen, but they're insignificant, they're irrelevant, in fact. You see, if you feel, okay, I grew up in this way, and for me, only kosher food is really permitted, even though somehow I've gone beyond this idea that, if I don't eat kosher things, then I'm going to go to hell or something. But still, something still enjoys to eat this way because that's how I'm brought up. I don't see any problem with it at all. But to feel that you're fixed or a prisoner of your own conditioning, you see. Maybe as the beingness itself, what it's doing, it seems, it's stretching and yawning and spreading and just trying to squeeze itself out of those shapes that's been held you restrictive for a while. And make no mistakes about it, it must have been that the consciousness somehow, you can call it, choose to travel through that road of expression, to experience all the things that you experience, so that you can be free of them in such a total way. You see? And yet, when I say free of it, I mean free of it without cynicism. So that you are not looking and thinking, haha, I used to do that, I'm not like that anymore. Somehow there's still that respect and that understanding that somehow the world seems to cook like that. And that if I can somehow come out of this sense of limitation to see that it actually doesn't serve me anymore, then somehow I've found that I fully am, and my faith in God, if you want to say, is not injured in some way. In fact, God has moved from a stern, severe father figure to actually to be so intimate in my being that there's no separation, in fact. You see? I was brought up Seventh-day Adventist, actually, and we came from you guys. Yeah. It's one of the Christian sects, you may call, that actually came very much also linked with the Torah, Old Testament, and Sabbath, and all of this also.
Actually, be for awakened and still keep pieces of your conditioning that you like and enjoy?
If you're not attached to it, then it's not even called your conditioning anymore. I mean, as long as this body is on the planet, it's going to be moving under the sway of conditioning.
So if you're attached to it,
Yes.
let's
Then you must
define,
find out. You must find out who this you is that's attached to it, and you will come to see it's only your mind. It's only your mind, or the kind of image you have of yourself. The idea you're holding of yourself is caught up in this trap of identification.
So is the path to becoming unattached to detach yourself and see if that works for you?
What is the path, rather than saying, is to detach yourself, to remain as the awareness of whatever it is that you're perceiving. To remain as the awareness only. Then you don't have to suffer the of detachment. One sees immediately there is no such thing as attachment or detachment, except for an illusory identity that I consider to be myself, you see, appearing in the awareness that I am.
Thank you.
You see, this is how I would put it, you know. Because sometimes even careful that the mind doesn't take up this thing about becoming detached as another task. That would have to go around and I've got to go with my shears and cut these roots. Then you see that actually cutting the roots is only another thought arising in the awareness itself. And when that is recognized, in that recognition itself, a lot of muck floats up to the surface, you see. A lot of that gets burnt by itself. You don't have to be going around with a can of benzene and matches. It just gets burned somehow by itself, in fact. And contrary, I mean, like it is saying that, I mean, if you, they say sometimes, you know, when we say that you are God itself, it's not a compliment, by the way. It's not saying, look, you know, you especially are God. It's saying that you are God. And they say, this is blasphemous. I said, no, is it not blasphemous to think that you can be other than God? Or that you can exist apart from God? If this is your inclination. I say, I grew up initially before meeting Papaji. I met God, not like meeting you as a form in front, but happened inside my own heart, where it became clear that something was happening inside that was not, it was not like anything else that had happened before. It transformed everything about what was resident in here as me. It was already I was still there somehow. I feel like I was cooperating. I felt like I was chosen. In fact, felt very nice about it, experiencing miracles and all these things were happening. And I felt as though I was always sitting on the lap of God. This is how I felt, you know. It's a delightful place, very nice. And somehow I came to go to India, and circumstances brought